Good evening. It is 6:07. I'd like to welcome you to our regular meeting of the Plainview Independent School District Board of Trustees. We have a quorum, and I'd like to thank you again for this evening. I know some of you are ready to get out of here, and we'll try to make it short and painless. But if you will, pray with me. Father God, we thank you for life, and we thank you for the moisture that you provide for us, and we thank you for our students, thank you for our staff, thank you just in general for our district, and we just thank you for this board, and we just ask for your guidance as we do always, and that we can do what's best for this district and in all our decisions. And we just thank you for time off, and we just ask that you be with everyone, those that are going out of town. Protect them, and they can come home safe and enjoy their vacation. We just ask you all this in your wonderful name. Amen.
Amen. Would you stand with me for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Sanchez.
Okay. Yes, sir. Do we have any citizen comments? Okay. All right. At this point in time, I'll go ahead and begin with the superintendent's report and then move into our state of the district, which will be focused on our district improvement plan. But before I do that, I'd like to recognize Coach Martinez, who is our interim head football coach, and he's here, and we feel confident that he'll do a good job. He's been our offensive coordinator over the last few years, and we feel confident he'll do a good job leading the boys this season. And then afterwards, he is pretty convinced they're going to do a good job, and we have faith and trust that he will. And so go ahead and ask him to come up and just say a few things.
Thank you. First of all, just thank you to the members of the board and Dr. Sanchez for giving me this opportunity. I'm thrilled just to be given the chance, and so I'm really thankful. I want to thank my beautiful fiance who's back there supporting me all along the way, and knew this was a dream of mine and a goal of mine, and it's been nothing but supportive. Big thank you to our parents and Red Rage Booster Club and several community members who I know have made phone calls on my behalf and so have supported me in this transition over the last couple of weeks. And then most importantly, just thanking the kids. Our student athletes have showed up every morning, continued to put in the work, continued to work hard in the weight room and in their conditioning and in their skills development. So I'm just, they're so ready for Friday Night Lights again and to show you what our brand of football is going to be about this year. So thank you for the opportunity. Come out to Bulldog Stadium with a lot of Bulldog pride this season, and let's put on a show for you. That's gonna be the plan. So, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach. All right, so go ahead. This definitely is a team effort to pull all of this information together. And first of all, I'd like to thank the board members that were able to be available when we began working on the goals for the district improvement plan. If you'll remember, a year ago, we asked for different board members to sit on different committees to provide perspective on what our goals should be in a variety of areas that, of course, align with our board core beliefs and commitments that are on the wall behind me. And of course, purposefully, they're facing the board as the board makes decisions. And so it makes sense that the district improvement plan is a reflection of those same goals. And so what I'm going to cover are the goals that were informed by the board, informed by district faculty and staff, as well as by community members in various areas. All right. So as we take a look at the end of the year evaluation, progress monitoring is what goes on throughout the year. So throughout the year, it's the job of the leadership team working in concert with campus leaders working in concert with teachers to progress monitor. In other words, to ensure that those goals that are part of the district improvement plan, that are part of campus improvement plans, are being monitored and shepherded from the first day of school to the last day of school. Summative review, of course, that's what we're doing now. We're looking at the data once it's come in based on the goals that are set, and then they'll inform the goals that we will bring to the board in the month of August. Okay, next slide. So the first goal was district and campus commitments in the area of taking a look at attendance. So the data we have available for state, region, and district comparisons, you'll see goes from 2020 to 22. We don't have data for region or state comparisons for 23, 24 yet. So I want to bring your attention to where we were pre-COVID. The state was at 98.3, region was at 98.2, we were at 95.8% attendance. So that means the average student attended 95.8% of the school days available to him or her. So that's that number. So the difference between the state and the district was a couple of percentage points. Same thing with the region in 20. If you look at 21, that was the year that everything shut down. So attendance for the state went from 98 to 95, the region from 98 to 94, and for the district from 95 to 93. Post-COVID, you can see the first year that everybody came back, the state was at 92, the region was at 93, and we were at 91. So we've always been within that 2-point range of where the state and region are. If you look at 23, you can see there was a slight recovery of 0.7. And if you look at 24, there was about a 1.7% recovery. Now, the problem that we're looking at is our goal is to get back to the 95.8, and that's where we want to go. So that leads to the next chart, chronic absenteeism. So what the heck is chronic absenteeism? That is the percentage of students that are missing more than what state law requires students to attend, or compulsory education law. So if you take a look at 2020, about 12% of the students would find themselves in attendance court because they missed more days than what was allowable. COVID hit, and of course we weren't filing on people during COVID, but if we would have filed during COVID, it would have been 20% of the students were missing more than what the state allowed students to miss, which is roughly 10 days. Now, if you take a look at 22, the data that we have available that's been calculated is 33%. So that means in 22, right when we got back from COVID, which aligns with the 91%, which is the lowest on the chart, you can see that 33% of the kids, if we would have been sending kids to truancy court in 22, would have qualified for some type of a penalty or consequence for not coming to school. Now, we don't have the data for 23, 24 yet. Once we do, we'll present that when we do our district goal 1 for the 24-25 school year. But you can see the issue that we're facing isn't an issue that we're facing alone. It's a state issue, region issue, state issue, but it's something that we set as a goal that we want to improve. And so we have to do better than 33% of the students qualifying for attendance court. So later on in the presentation with some of the grants we've written, we're addressing some of that because I'm sure as you're aware, they're post-COVID, we've seen an increase in anxiety, we've seen an increase in student depression, we've seen an increase in certain things that weren't there pre-COVID. And one has to wonder if it aligns with the Surgeon General's declaration that we have a mental health crisis and that social media should have mental health warnings affixed to it, just like buying a pack of cigarettes has, that the Surgeon General recommends that spending too much time on social media isn't good for your mental health, just like smoking too many cigarettes isn't good for your physical health. If you look at the red line and the blue line, they tell an interesting story. So if you take a look at the red line is the year before last. The blue line is this past year. So the red line is where attendance really dropped. And if you take a look at where attendance really dropped with that red line, what you'll see is in the first 6 weeks, comparing this past school year to the previous school year, the first 6 weeks was roughly at 94% attendance. So 94% district-wide. And this is again 23 and 24 data. If you look at the second 6 weeks, it dipped, but similarly at 93%. If you look at the third 6 weeks, it dipped again, and it was similar at 90%. But when you look at the fourth 6 weeks, that's where you begin to see things kind of change. So attendance was 93% for last year. The year before it was 92. If you take a look at the fifth 6 weeks, you'll see that attendance was 92 for 2024, but for 2023 it was 93. Now this was interesting. If you look at the last 6 weeks of the year before last year, it was at 86%. Last year it's at 92%. Hence the improvement. So you can see the improvement from 91.7 to 92.7, but there was a drastic drop in attendance, and there were circumstances underlying that. But even without that circumstance, you can see that the lines, though exaggerated, follow a similar pattern. And so what that emphasizes to us is we have to take a look at the third 6 weeks, which is around Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then we have to take a look at the end of the year. I know in a lot of cases, you'll see a lot of absenteeism after STAR is over because people assume that, well, STAR's over, so the year's over. So as we're taking a look at the data going forward, our goal is to get back to the 95.8. We did show progress in moving in the right direction, but attendance is going to have to be a concerted community-wide effort with us all working together. And as I mentioned later on, there are resources that we're going to deploy to help address some of that. Next slide. In the communication area, part of what we're looking at with communication, of course, we have our new public information officer, Ms. Hernandez, and so she can wave. I think y'all know who she is. So I do feel that what Ms. Hernandez will bring to the table as a former teacher and as a parent within the district will be a perspective of families who have young children who are busy, who are professional, who are maybe one or more parents work, but they get their information from social media and quick bites and quick snippets between here and there, or leaving one kid off from practice and picking another kid up, and so on and so forth. So excited to have her on board. Part of what we did last year in the area of communication is we worked to teach campus personnel how to download and navigate the new app. And so we do have a new app. If you have it on your phone, you get alerts for weather, you get alerts for graduation, you get alerts for football games or basketball schedules or all of the different things that we need to keep the community informed of. We also put on there the migrant workshop or a counselor's workshop or Gentex. So the app is very useful, and we really want to get more people using the app to know what's going on in the district. The next one was reviewing communication reports to identify and improve communication with families. And so we continue to believe that most people use social media, but we have a large aspect of our community that still wants a phone call or a letter home. So we haven't moved to a point to where 90% of the community says we want to use social media or app. We still have quite a few that say they look for communication in the mail and they look for communication via our phone call system for major aspects of information, because even if they don't take the call, it leaves a message. Attendance, for example, or major events or school closures due to weather. So going into our goal with communication, it was to deploy the app, to train people to access the app, and to train people to use the app, to look for it as a means of information. So this will be a goal that as we look at the next school year, we'll continue to refine and we'll continue to assess how families consume information. But we also, going into next year, want to open the door for staff and for the community to get to know who we are a little better. And so using our communication for each principal or each campus or even teachers to tell their story of who they are, so that as parents are looking at options for their kids for education, if you want to know who teaches on a campus, maybe we will have snippets of information about teachers talking about who they are and what they believe and why they teach in PISD, and administrators and what their campus mantra is, what their goal and focus is for the year. So we're shifting more of our communication away from just letting people know that we have a bad weather day to doing that, plus also informing the community about who we are and being more personal through the use of our communication resources and assets. So that'll be something that you'll see as a goal for next year. Okay, next one. This is a big one, school climate and safety. Looking at emotional, social, physical, and academic linguistic needs of students, you can see that there is quite a bit of data that's evaluated. Surveys, discipline reports, MTSS referrals, some of the events that board members have attended and seen that we've advertised, and we have to find a way to get more people because we have people with our monthly counselor parent information meetings take a lot of time to put really good and useful information together, and we get 5 or 6 parents. So we're going to have to find a way to either record it, maybe deploy it through our social media, maybe we live broadcast it via some type of our YouTube channel. We're going to have to get more creative there. So part of the battle was getting the information set up, and we've done that. But the tougher battle is getting people to come in and participate because it's good information. The next one is MTSS Parent Nights. We hold those every Monday. Bulldog Leads. That's where we identify kids that are doing really good things on campus, celebrate them, and give kids a lot of times who don't get a lot of recognitions in other areas to get recognitions for being a bulldog, for making good decisions, for being a leader on campus. Then we will continue this and we'll get better with monthly discipline data reviews to take a look at what's going on, which kids are getting into a lot of trouble, and trying to identify some of the underlying issues and aligning resources, again, which I'll get into as we go further. Transition meetings, how do we get kids that are in restrictive environments like the District Alternative Education Placement Center or who have been in a inpatient facility back on campus and successful. That's an area, again, that as we get into next year, we look at making more systemic. Also looking at working with David Luna. He's come in and he's worked at junior high, Nash, and intermediate to provide some counseling with some of our students who need hope, who need belief in themselves. We continue to use our Stop It app, and we get information and tips on everything on Stop It, from bullying to being aware that students perhaps might not be coming to school with the best of intentions. And so that's been a resource to keep our schools safe and without incident. Also, the other piece we did this year is the restriction of cell phones and electronic devices. That has helped with discipline numbers as well. And then taking a look at some of the other things that we've done on the positive side, such as resources for the fine arts programs, and then some of the check-ins we've done with families that are high risk or high need. Okay. In terms of student academic achievement, for the longest time, we haven't had a systemic district curricula. Now, it's difficult to roll a systemic district curricula out in 1 year, and it's going to take refinement and work moving forward. So next Monday, Ms. Long, myself, and Mr. Fitzgerald have a meeting with a entity that'll come in and talk to us about how we take everything that you can see on this slide that's been purchased, bought, and deployed, and do a less is more approach. Really identifying what's important, what's useful, what isn't. Also, looking at what we need to supplement Eureka Math. Eureka Math is the curricula developed by the state and recommended by the state. And what we found is it's C-scope in nature. And what I mean by that is Eureka Math comes with the assumption that every student has had a complete pre-K, K, first, second, third, whatever grade you're teaching. The assumption is there have been no gaps for students prior to them arriving to that grade level, which, as we've seen across the state and in visiting with other districts, Eureka Math has too many assumptions. And so what we're going to have to do going into next year, and that's the work for next Monday, is sit down with the company that's going to help us build the pacing calendar. We're going to have to adopt the organized abandonment philosophy of what is most important, what we don't need to cover, and what we're going to have to use to supplement Eureka Math, because anybody who tells you it's all in there usually is selling you something that is aspirational at best and misleading at worst. And so I'm not trying to disparage the state and its efforts with Eureka Math. If every family had, mom and dad in the 2-car garage, and mom could stay home and tutor the kids, and the dog's in the backyard and he doesn't bite the mailman, if that was everyone's situation, Eureka Math is great, but we know that's not it. We know that we're going to have to supplement. We know that some families kept their kids at home 1 or 2 years for COVID. And we know, and we're still getting some kids that haven't been in school up until this school year. And they missed all their junior high education, and now they're wanting to go to high school. So we've also seen an increase in students who are coming in from Central and South America, and some that are coming in from places other than Central and South America through the southern border. So we have a complexity of students who are coming into high school who haven't been in school since 2nd grade, and now they're 16 and 17 years old. So when you take a look at resources like this, there are assumptions that are built in, and what we have to do is fill the gaps with those assumptions, which will be part of our goals going into next year, as well as some data targeted goals that principals will set for individual campuses at individual points. Okay, next one. The same thing with reading. We deployed reading last year through HMH. It was deployed in the same way Eureka was. And again, going into this year, there will be a revamp of what is most necessary, what standards are most critical, and where kids have gaps, and what we're going to use to close and supplement those gaps. We met on Monday with the 3 elementary principals, and Dr. Moreno, Ms. Long, myself, and the other Dr. Sanchez, to take a look at this K4 reading in English and Spanish with a mindset of the direct teach component, the shared reading component, the shared writing component, the student reading with student component, the individual student reading component, and the same with writing, and how that looks, how we measure it, how we evaluate the success of it, and how we identify which students have challenges in which area, and how we provide that intervention from day one. I've met with 3 elementary principals, Ms. Long, Mr. Fitzgerald, Ms. Merrick, and I have done that. And we held our second meeting with all the principals this week. And we had an opportunity to take a look at their master schedules, to take a look at their teacher teams, their teacher assignments, their professional learning groups, who's going to lead that, the type of instrument that the principals designed and developed in concert with staff. I know that some principals even held teams meetings with teachers to ask and get their input. So as we move into this next year, what we inform math and reading, it's going to be a reflection of each principal created her own elementary schedule. Each principal integrated in their own planning time. Each principal integrated in their own RTI time. And some principals put math in the morning and then reading and then some more math and then finish with writing. We gave them the discretion on, now that they've been in the buildings 3 years, now that we've rolled this out last year, now that they have the data, now that their teacher teams are together, now that they know their faculty and staff, all right, what do you recommend? And so our job is to support them in that work and effort. And so I'm very excited going forward, because we're talking about how we're looking at data, how we're looking at planning, how we're using these resources, but also how we're leaning and leveraging our experienced staff that we have, and how we're getting out of their way to let them do their work, and for us to be in a supportive role. So there's quite a bit that we've already done by this point that last year we hadn't begun the conversation. So I'm excited about going into next year. It's gonna be a lot of work, but I feel, and maybe they're behind me shaking their head and freaking out, But I feel that the principals going into this next year are appreciating and taking ownership of the opportunity to build their schedule, set their teams, build their planning, identify what instruments they're going to use to evaluate student learning, the conversations they're going to have with staff to be able to group students for intervention. So I feel next year will be a good year based off of a foundation of this past year. Okay. Next is our college and career graduation and dropout reduction. You can take a look at our industry-based certification and our annual increase there. This was something that the HEB, Education and Excellence Board of the Year, recognized. So if you take a look at the number that's not on there is 1819. 18 and 19 was 1.3%. 1920 was 15.9%. 2021 was 28.9%. 21-22 is 34%. Our goal is to get to 40% by 24, which we anticipate once that data comes out will be there. But if you take a look at industry-based certifications, these are the things that Jimmy Fikes with computer and all of the Microsoft certifications. This is Ryan Brundage and the welding certifications. All the kids that you see up here recognized with their awards and their medals and their certificates. So what it's saying is our rate has increased to 34%. Now look at the states. States at 28, regions at 26, and we're at 34 in industry-based certifications. So that tells you that, yeah, we offer dual credit. Yeah, we do early college, but we also do a better job than the state with industry-based certifications. So this is CNA, this is culinary, this is ag mechanics, this is welding, it's Microsoft certification. So we do a really good job because an industry-based certification, as you know, is the shortest distance between a high school diploma and a livable wage, because you can get a real job with these certifications, which is evidenced by some of the teachers in our welding program over the last so many years graduated high school and then came back a year later and became instructors because they had the industry-based certification, and TEA recognized their IBC that they earned from PISD to be able to be a teacher in our classroom. So that's what that's producing. So very proud of that. Take a look at dropout rate. You'll see that with our dropout rate, we were at 0.8, 21, 0.8, 1.1. So we do anticipate going into 22, 23, 23, 24, that'll normalize. But again, that's the data that we have from the COVID year. So to kind of get an idea of what we're looking at, 5-year longitudinal, and this is the data that the state holds. If you take a look at the class of 22, we were at 97.5. And as we looked at the class of 23 and 24, that number has exceeded where we were pre-COVID. So we have done a good job with graduation, even though we have had some of the difficulties and challenges with student attendance, which speaks to the ability of teachers to catch up kids even when they're not making it into class. That can be a lot better. But again, I wanted to share that data with y'all. So our CCMR score was 86%, and that's really good. I mean, that's a good CCMR score. All right, next one. Staff quality. All right, so take a look at our acknowledgements and response. So Mary and Megan wrote the Stronger Connections competitive grant, and we were told today that we can hire people finally. So there you go, Joanne. And Joanne has been our board representative as we've worked through structuring this grant. It's $1 million in funding over the course of 24-25. It has a component to apply for another $1 million after the first cycle is done to continue the work. What it allows is for us to work with Plainview Intermediate, which we've done, Plainview Junior High and Ash, and we began looking at response to intervention, behavioral intervention at level 1, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. It will allow us to hire 3 case managers, LPC associates, and 1 for each of the 3 campuses. But it will allow us to see how this model works on those 3 campuses to take and extrapolate that out to the other campuses. So this is one of the responses. If you'll remember, I'm like, all right, so why aren't they coming to school? Well, the name of the grant is Stronger Connection. So how do we build a stronger connection with kids? So through case management, through the LPCs, through the LPCA and others that we're looking at, working with Wayland and Tech to try to get interns to come in and earn their hours they need for their certification here with us and our kids. This will help us address some of the issues with anxiety, some of the issues with behavior, some of the issues with perhaps some of the oppositional defiance that we see that sometimes keeps kids at home. So this is a real positive grant. We're also looking at Restore, which is our behavior program, which will take the place of SESI or SESI. One program for elementary will be at Central because we've outfitted the room. The other will be at Ash because we've outfitted the room. But we have a behavior specialist that is a new hire on your list that you'll see as a behavior specialist. She comes from Lubbock ISD, where she worked in a program very similar to what we're building in PISD. We'll have a behavior specialist, 2 teachers, 1 for elementary, 1 secondary, and then we'll have 4 paraprofessionals that will work in the program. So we'll have 1 teacher, 2 pairs, 1 teacher, 2 pairs on each location with the behavior specialist assisting. So this is something that we're excited about, that we feel will help some of our students who need support to get them back into the regular classroom. And when Ms. Ramirez presented this, she ended by saying the goal of this program isn't for this to be forever. The goal of this program is to get them back into the regular ed classroom to be successful, because at some point they're going to be out in life and they need to be able to be successful there. The next is Transition Bridge Classroom at South Elementary. We had quite a few kindergarten students this year who weren't ready for kindergarten. So what's that mean? How can you get ready for kindergarten? Well, of course, we teach you your numbers and we teach you your sounds in kindergarten, but what we're finding is there are students that struggle with the structure of school. This is your class. These are your classmates. You share with your classmates. You don't hit your classmates. You don't bite your classmates. Your friends. You don't say things that you shouldn't to your classmates. So we're seeing students that are coming in that haven't had a structured formal opportunity, and they struggle within the regular school day of what kindergarten looks like, that we have to sit crisscross applesauce. We have to pay attention to the teacher when she's writing. It's time to get up and we have to stand in a line, and we all go and eat in the cafeteria and we use our utensils and all of the little things that were assumptions before. As we find students that are missing those components, the bridge classroom will allow us to get kids into that situation to where they can learn what it is to be a student, so that then they can come in and learn their math facts, learn the reading facts. And so this is something that we're trying this year as a bridge, instead of just putting them in the classroom and seeing the student not be successful. We want them to be successful. So again, this is a short placement to get them caught up with what they need to know to move into a structured general education classroom. Then, of course, we have behavior management training, which will be with our pre-kindergarten teachers, because again, last year we saw pre-kindergarten behaviors that were different than what we saw pre-COVID. And I'm not blaming it all on COVID, but something strange happened to where kids that are coming into pre-kindergarten today have a lot more needs than they did before. And so this will allow us to work with teachers on how to work with learners who have those challenges. Then we also applied for the School Violence Prevention Program Competitive Grant. You can see it's between $364,000 to $485,000 available over a course of 3 years. What it does is it allows us to improve security at schools on grounds. It also allows us to bring in additional surveillance cameras and software, de-escalation training, bullet-resistant laminate. So it's a grant to continue to deal with the unfunded mandates by the state of Texas and to find funding that wasn't provided necessarily by the state to be able to address the requirements of the state without having to take money out of other programs. Then the last is a Stop School Violence Competitive Grant that we applied for June 20th, and that's $180,594 per year for 3 years. And this will allow us to bring in a person with experience on stepping into hot or challenging situations, helping us de-escalate them, helping build school safety structures, identifying, if the parking lot's dangerous because people are driving crazy, to help us make it a safer situation. If there's tension in a campus, to go and to help assess and diffuse what that tension is. So it's really somebody who has an expertise in emergency management, crisis management, safety precautions, and just little things that a lot of times we don't look at. Maybe some staggered release times for students at the end of the day, or better monitoring with student drop-off pickup, a lot of things. So again, this is a grant. So I appreciate both Megan and Mary taking the time to look for these grants, because they're not traditional TEA. They're not Texas Education Agency grants. They're out of the Department of Justice, federal grants. They're out of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. They're out of all kinds of different entities and agencies. So we're competing for these grants. And I mean, to get the first one shows us that we can do this and we can be successful, because the Stronger Connections is a federally funded grant. And every other state gave it to like inpatient facilities, inpatient treatment facilities. And we're a public school and we got it. So, I mean, that's pretty good stuff. It shows the level of collaboration and skill. So if you'll click the survey link. So we gave the same survey this year that we did the year before, and we received similar results in a multitude of areas. But let's go to the last three. Okay, back. All right. Yeah, right there. Perfect. All right. So what was one area you feel is most in need of improvement in the district? There is progress, but we need more progress, which goes to all of the things I covered. So if you take a look at the previous school year, 57.91 felt that behavior management was a big issue in PISD. Same survey, given out the same way, same level of confidentiality. This year, it's 45.7. It's a 10% improvement, but we would like it to be more than that. All right, so what accounted for the 10% improvement? Cell phone policy, vaping policy, zero tolerance with assaulting each other in staff policy. So if you'll think about the things that you guys voted into the code of conduct to kind of get tougher on consequences and to eliminate the cell phone as a distraction, we got a 10% improvement, but that's still not good enough. So you can only, we believe, punish your way to better behavior to a point. And that's why the Stronger Connections grant was written. That's why the safety management grant's written, the de-escalation training, the bridge classroom. Those things are going to have to be other parts of the puzzle. One of the things that we'll cover during admin retreat is going to be tier one. What are our classroom rules? What are our classroom procedures? How do we build relationships with kids? How do we do an interest inventory of kids so we get to know them? How do we communicate with parents when things are good, not just when they're bad? What's the role of the principal in setting the culture and tone for how we enter the building, how we act in the building, how we act in the cafeteria? How do we all hold hands and holding accountability for these things? So that'll be something we cover during admin retreat. And the three principals that are working through the Stronger Connections grant will share some of the work that they're doing in that area and give everybody an opportunity to firm up their tier one, which should address 80% of the challenges with 80% of the students we see. Tier two is a lot of counseling, a lot of group work, and then tier one is about 5% of the students, and that's a lot of individual work. Go to the next one. Up or down? Yeah. So we did ask, do you feel the changes to the student code of conduct have improved student behavior? Again, full disclosure, 40% said yeah. 59% said no. So when we dug into the narrative part, because we had a narrative component, why did 59% say no. They stated that there were inconsistencies in how rules were enforced. That some kids, it was enforced like it should have been. Some kids got a lot of chances. Some kids got the hammer drop first time. Some admin were by the book. Some admin used a little discretion in the book. And so that's an area, again, through admin retreat, I'll be working directly with principals that we're going to continuously monitor. Looking at next year, I'd like to deploy this survey at mid-year and end of the year, because at mid-year, if it looks like this, then we got to figure out what's going on, because it has to be better. Now, of course, 50 to 60% of our faculty and staff responded, and yeah, we could say, well, maybe the disgruntled people were the only ones that responded. But if that's how they feel and they responded and the others didn't feel strong enough to respond to the contrary, then this is the data we have and this is the data we use. We can't discount it because we didn't get 100% participation. If this is the participation we got, these are the voices we heard, then it's our responsibility to act on it. So you can see, in one sense, we had a 10% improvement in what people feel is the biggest issue. But you can see the code of conduct and dropping the hammer, if we don't do it consistently, isn't the solution, that there has to be other parts to this. So working with the principals going into next year, we're going to have to take a look at ensuring that if we say no cell phones, it's no cell phones. If we say wear your badge, everybody should have their badge. These things have to happen. And if they don't, then it's my responsibility going into next year as principal supervisor to address it. Because we have to pull the rope in the same direction for this to be better. Otherwise, we can't get to the teaching if we can't get through this. All right? Okay, next slide. Goal late is family engagement. As you can see, through family engagement, there's quite a bit that occurs. You can see pre-K parent conferences, family engagement meetings. We did the in Plainview events, 2 of them. They were wildly successful. That was Mr. Wallace's idea, and it was a good one. It was almost like the cops and kids thing, where we had so much participation. You can see through here all of the different things that we did with families this year. You can see everything from check-ins to back to school events. And so this is an area that we look forward to continuing. And we do appreciate the Plainview Education Foundation, because they did give us a standing grant each year for money for our family engagement for families that are in emergency situations. We've had families whose homes have burned down, or mom or dad ended up in a horrible traffic accident and there's no food, or utilities got cut off in the middle of winter. So we do appreciate the Education Foundation, but we also appreciate all the other partners in the community that we have in this work and in this effort. Snack Pack for Kids, of course, that sits outside of us, but they're big. But there are a lot of things. So we can't just ask the community to give to us. We have to get back to the community, and the family engagement piece, which is part of the core beliefs and core commitments, is how does PISD give back? So these are some of the areas where we do. All right, next. The next one is technology. You will have a technology item on the agenda for 700 Chromebooks for the high school. We're working hard to provide more access to technology. So you can see the programs that we gauge the utilization, such as Go Guardian, which keeps kids away from content that they shouldn't be in. Eureka Math, HMH, these are the 2 adoptions. Imagine Math as a resource, learning.com as a resource, and iStation as a resource. Of course, we're going to have to be better using the data reports that come of that, but you can see that we did eliminate some programs that we don't use anymore. We have saved some money on it, but if you take a look at the instructional hours gained on students using this as a supplement to direct instruction, you can see the instructional hours gained, the student sessions, and so that's good information, again, as a station or as a supplement to direct instruction. Okay. That's a lot of stuff. So if y'all have any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions. But those were the goals. And again, we made progress in many areas, but there's still progress to be made going into next year. And so with this presentation fresh on your minds, we'll be working with you as well as working with staff and community to devise the goals in those areas going into next year. And as I mentioned, I mean, we'll be working with principals to set database targets once our STAR data comes out. So when our STAR data comes out in reading and math, we will set targets for elementary and intermediate and junior high and high school on what we feel is attainable. So again, are there any questions? All right. Y'all aren't stressed out about that, right? It's all good stuff. Okay. All right, so with that, that'll conclude the superintendent's report, so we can go on to the business items.
Our first business item is the recommendation for substitute pay. Is that correct?
Let me see. We do have one item prior to that, and let me look at the agenda here. It is election of board officers and reorganization.
Oh, yeah.
Since the presidency was an item under consideration, there was a nomination for Mr. Soto to remain in the position. Ms. De La Garza has declined the opportunity, so that doesn't necessitate a vote if Mr. Soto will accept continuing in his role as president.
Okay, so
Okay, all right. So did I get that right? Want to be sure. Okay, all right. For vice president, we do have two nominees. One is Ms. Ray, and then one is, one was Mr. Soto. And since he's president, so now we have only one nominee, which would be Ms. Bass. So if you accept the position to continue to serve as a vice president, then there's no need for a vote.
I will.
Okay? So then the only
No,
contest,
I have a question. Do we not get to nominate anybody else for vice president?
yes, ma'am, you can if you would like at this point.
I'd like to nominate Sylvia De La Garza for vice president.
Okay, all right, so we have Ms. Bass has been nominated first, and so at this point in time, I'm going to hand it back to the president because he's accepted and there's been no other nominee. So at this time, it'll just be a matter of asking for a vote or asking for the nomination. So we've had a nomination, then Sylvia would have to accept the nomination, and then there would be a vote. So do you accept the nomination?
I'll accept it.
Okay, so, all right, so we have two. So, Mr. President, you can proceed with Ms. Bass first, and then Ms. De La Garza, and just call for a vote.
Good.
Sir.
all right, so we got a nomination, got two nominations, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But this time, those are one, we will go with Ms. Bass first. Those who want to vote on Ms. Bass to be the vice president, can raise your right hand. Okay, got two. For Ms. De La Garza. Got three. De La Garza, vice president.
All right, we have two nominees for secretary, Ms. Rivera and Ms. Ray.
Okay,
Can I decline that nomination?
Yes, ma'am, you can.
I respectfully decline that nomination.
All right. So at that point, unless Ms. Rivera declines, then she will remain in that position. She's not here to speak for herself, but we'll communicate with her, so. All right, so that concludes that item there. No, no, no. Okay, all right. I'll go ahead and go through the agenda, and then the next meeting, the vice president will go through the agenda. So at this point, Mr. President, it's, the item is consideration of approval of minutes for the regular board meeting, May 16, 2024, and special call meeting, board workshop, June 4, 2024.
Board, got any questions, comments pertaining to this item? No? Okay. Our intent motion for, is that item number 7?
Yes, sir.
Item number 7 at this time.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Thank you. Do I hear a second? Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Okay. Under business items, the first business item we have is a request for your consideration and approval of revision to policy AIC local. The revision recommended in concert with our legal counsel as well as the Texas Association of School Board representative assigned to PISD recommends a revision of a requirement of 8 semesters prior to graduation at PHS for consideration for valedictorian or salutatorian. This would be in effect with the incoming freshman class. The current sophomore, junior, and senior class would abide by existing EIC local. And upon their graduation, then this class would be the first to enact the revision if approved by the board. In essence, it requires that a student be enrolled day one in PISD at the high school level to be eligible should they earn the GPA and GPA points for valedictorian and salutatorian. What this would disallow would be for transfer students from accredited charter, private, or home schools to come in their sophomore year, transfer credits in, and take a valedictorian or salutatory position away from a PISD student who has been enrolled for 3 to 4 consecutive years in PISD. So that's what this item would do. It would ensure that PISD students have the full opportunity to be valedictorian and salutatorian by this policy change. Professionally, I recommend it as well in concert with the attorney because students who attend our high school program and who take classes from our teachers find themselves at a disadvantage if a student can transfer in from another institution that perhaps grades more generously than our teachers and supersede them. It would be a shame if we had a student transfer in junior year and take a position from a student who's committed 4 years to PISD. And in many cases, their elementary and intermediate and middle school education is also in PISD. So I feel that it recognizes our teachers' work, effort, and rigor and the grades that they give, and it recognizes our students' work, effort, and how they complied with the rigor of our teachers so that they earned their GPA in the very building and district that as valedictorian and salutatorian, they'll represent upon commencement ceremony through their address to their peers in the community. So with that, I'll recommend on behalf of the administration, your consideration and approval of policy revision EIC local.
Board, any questions, comments? I know it's going from, was it 4 semesters to 8, correct?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
what I'm looking at? I think that's good. Okay, this time I'll entertain a motion for business item number,
Yes, sir.
Make a motion, we approve the policy revision EIC local.
thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. 5-0, thank you.
The next item we have is the substitute pay plan for 24-25. As you can take a look at the substitute pay plan, it is scaffolded and scaled based on the educational attainment level of the substitute in question. You can see that high school diploma is paid less than associates, and associates is paid less than full degreed, and full degreed is paid less than degreed and certified. And long-term positions pay more than daily positions for degreed and certified, as well as the other. And then you can see that differentiation. We do feel this keeps us competitive in the area, and all the difficult questions would go to Ms. Merrick. So I do recommend the substitute plan, however.
Board, any questions, comments?
Is this an increase?
It is not.
Is this just the same?
It's the same.
I just want to take this time and thank all the substitutes for this past year. I mean, I think they did an amazing job, and they helped us out a lot, what I can see. And thank you. If they're watching, thank you very much. And hopefully we see you next school year, and definitely gonna continue to mention that a lot, because sometimes maybe they don't get the credit that they deserve. So, and I'm glad to see that it's gonna be a little bit more for them, and maybe we can change their title one day. So, board, any more questions, comments?
I want to make a comment just from me substituting one day in kindergarten. I wanted to sing and I did not get to sing. And I'm still waiting for my paycheck for that.
Ms. Wallace doesn't allow singing in kindergarten.
I can
how
tell
she
you that
rolls.
I did catch something and I was sick for a week. So kudos to the substitutes that do show up, because it was not easy. I had to have the aide teach me how to teach math. Y'all are doing a triangle. I do 1, 2, 3. So I wanted to do the 1, 2, 3 with the kids, and they said, no, you have to do the circles. And I don't even remember how we did it, but I mean, it was a quick 101 on all the updates of how it's taught differently from when I was taught. So kudos to the subs that do show up, and some of those don't have any knowledge of what they're walking into until they walk in. And they still come back.
We can put in next board's agenda for a singing session or something if you want.
No,
It's not a problem.
I do want the choir teacher at the high school to invite me to substitute one day. I do want to sing, even if I'm off board, or, I just want to go. I want to substitute up there with the choir. Where's the principal? Who's not here?
Please don't let her do that.
For some reason, Jeff is like, no, okay. All right, board, any more questions, comments pertaining to this item? If not, entertain a motion for item number 2. Substitute pay plan.
I move we approve the substitute pay plan for 24-25 salary year.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, the next item we have is increase the district's contribution for TRS active care, healthcare premium to our employees electing coverage. The state, of course, passes on, we're on the state plan, and so we're on Tiris Active Care Health Insurance. And the state does pass along any increase to those who are participating, and we're participating. Now, as much as we don't like the $37 a month per employee increase, the alternative of trying to find our own pool would have been much worse. So though this is more, our recommendation is that the district cover the $372 increase for our employees going into the next school year. With as expensive as everything is, if we can do this for one more year and make it for work for one more year, we should. You can see that it will be approximately $447 per employee per month that everything comes out to, because the state does provide $75, but we provide the rest, the other $372. So with that, I'll make the recommendation for the board's consideration and approval to cover the $37 per employee increase for those employees who participate in TRS, Active Care, Healthcare in PISD.
Board, any questions, comments? Ms. Brandon, do we know a full total amount, how much it would be? Out of all these, what is it? How many?
Did I put that on there? You know, let me do a quick calculation. We talked about this and I don't remember it.
Oh,
Yeah, we estimated that it would be, so if you take 372 times the number of
I
employees.
think about 600 participate.
Yeah.
So what is that? 350,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, about $267,000 to increase. And that would give employees the choice of one plan, employee only, that is 100% covered by that $447.
It doesn't apply to, I mean, if you're on a more expensive plan than this, it doesn't cover you.
And the increases across the board were about 9% premium increase.
okay. All right, board, any questions, comments?
No.
Entertain a motion for item number 3.
I make a motion to approve the $37 per employee per month increase of the contributions.
Okay. Guess that says in the nutshell, doesn't it?
Yes, sir. Just need a second.
Okay,
A second.
okay. So, you got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Okay, motion covers. Passes 5-0.
Next one is consideration and approval of Chromebook purchase over 50,000. If you remember at the last board meeting, we asked for your approval and appreciate your approval for Plainview Collegiate High School's Chromebooks. So now we're asking for 700 Chromebooks, licenses, and associated white glove service, including a 4-year accidental warranty, in the total amount of $209,300 for 700 Chromebooks, which will go to Plainview High School. So these Chromebooks will go to the high school, and they'll take the place of some that have aged out, and those that are still good, workable, and usable, we'll turn them over to Kevin's kids, who tend to be pretty rough with them. They don't love on them the same way that we need, like that the high school kids do. I don't know who left their eyelashes on some of the ones that we got back, but that might have been staff. So either way, this would be for 700 Chromebooks for the high school.
Okay. I saw those eyelashes.
Yeah, it showed Adam the picture of it. It was great.
Board, any questions, comments? Do we have a burial ground for the ones that are just totally,
So every year we have a company from STS Recycling come in and pick up some of our oldest equipment. At the moment, we have not disposed of any Chromebooks in 2 years. So we actually went through this. I had one of my technicians start working on repairing Chromebooks in March, and that's all he has done. He can get about 8 to 10 of them a day. So that's broken screens. We're taking I mean, the week that I was waiting on the board applications, I repaired about 50 to 60 of them that week by taking 2 and making 1. So,
Frankenstein computers.
yeah,
Amazing. Yeah.
and I busted a few here and there because it'd been a long time since I'd done that kind of work. So, but at the moment, we don't have any to be disposed of. At the next ones that'll expire out will be the summer of 25, right there. So next summer, and I think that's about 2,000 Chromebooks.
Awesome.
So we'll have some with 2 eyelashes instead.
Yeah, I'll show you a picture of that. It was, Shelley got a hold of that one and she was kind of grossed out the rest of that. She had to come back to the office and do real work after that one.
So these 700, so once the kid's in high school, do they, every year, do they get a different one, or are they kind of assigned the same one throughout high school?
Currently, we've been giving them a different one. Is the plan.
Okay.
So some of it is just the management side of making sure that they get the existing Chromebook that they had last year. We don't have the staff and the time to guarantee that. So our plan is, and every one of them is going to be operating just about the same as what every other Chromebook is. So it's kind of it's a mute point at that point.
Awesome.
But they do keep it through the entire school year.
Right.
So they keep it all year long, and that's theirs.
All right, board, any more questions, comments? All right, entertain a motion for item number 4.
I move we approve the Chromebook purchase over 50,000.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is the stipend schedule for 24-25 school year. If you'll take a look at that, these are all the stipends that we pay, and they cover everything from academic to fine art, to clubs, organizations, and coaching, department chairship. So you can see all of those. I don't believe there was a tremendous amount of adjustment to any of that.
Okay.
So with that, on behalf of the administration, I'll recommend for your consideration and approval, the 24-25 stipend schedule.
Board, questions, comments? All right. Entertain a motion for item number 6.
I make a motion, we accept the 24-25 stipend schedule.
Okay.
Salary year. Is that how you say it?
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion for a stipend schedule for 24-25 salary year. And a second. On favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. 5-0. Motion passes.
The next item we have is general pay increase proposal for the 24-25 salary year. If you take the 2% as well as covering the $37 increase or 372, it looks a little more like about 2.4 to 2.5% of an increase with salary and benefits. This particular item is for a 2% average teacher salary increase. Of course, it would also mean that we're looking at midpoint for certain positions on our different salary scales, but everything is a 2% increase. We feel we can cover this through budget. Ms. Chapa took some time and care to work through this calculation, and so, I mean, assuming that we don't lose 300 kids or something like that were to occur, this is something we feel that we can cover. And with everything being as expensive as it is, even though the state has taken zero action with its $30+ billion surplus, they're not going to do the right thing. We have to do the right thing. So I'd like to recommend a general pay increase proposal for 24-25 of 2% for your approval, for your consideration and approval, so that we can do the right thing, even though the state of Texas hasn't.
Board, any questions, comments?
I just wished it could be more, but I'm grateful thankful to you, Doris, and your team that made 2% happen, because there was a time that I wasn't sure that could even happen. So we're thankful for that. Thank you.
think we discussed and that was gonna go like 2.6 just because of the insurance that they were gonna
Yeah.
be getting covered.
So I think that's one of the hardest things, for a board is to do the right thing. And that's what we try to aim. We try to do all the time. And I just want to echo what Ms. Bass said. Yes, we definitely would like, we could do more. But, at this time, we just want to, try to take care of our staff and, and you might look at it as it's not much, but it is a little something. And that's what we're here for, trying to do the right thing. And y'all deserve it. Our staff deserves it, deserves even more. So, thank you again for everything y'all do, and hopefully I can accept this. Well, let's get it approved first, and then. But thank you, thank you very much. We'd like to do the right thing and give y'all more, but yes, we can at this point. So, any more comments or questions, board? I entertain a motion for item number 6.
I make a motion, we accept the general pay increase proposal for the 24-25 salary year.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank-
second.
Got a motion and a second. On fair say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. 5-0. Thank you.
The next item we have is approval of the Guardian Plan for 24-25 school year with the updated list of guardians. Of course, that list is confidential as we don't want to reveal the identity of our guardians. They're like Batman. So, lurking through the shadows. So, with that, the list that you have with the name of the people, they've gone through all of the required training. They've, got the license to carry. They've qualified. And so, Chief De La Garza has provided their names and documentation that they've met all the requirements as set in policy by the board, for our Guardian program. So, with that, I will recommend, for y'all's consideration approval, the Guardian Plan with the updated list of guardians.
Okay. Board, any questions, comments?
I was gonna ask, I think we talked about this before. Are we putting signs up at the buildings?
Yes, ma'am, we are right now, see if Chief is there. Yes, he'd worked on the signs, and so we're gonna finish up the summer cleaning and then the signs go up because we have to put new signs up for our Stop It app, for human trafficking, as well as our signs for, we have guardians on site. So those signs will all begin going up in July before kids show up.
Yeah, I feel like that's a big piece of it too,
Mhm.
at least so it's posted. I actually ran into one of the people on our guardian list and he said that y'all been doing some awesome training. And it sounds like they're very, heaven forbid they have to, but went through some different scenarios and he said that the training this summer had gone really well.
Yes, ma'am. Most of the training that we're trying to do with them is giving them multiple trainings, not that good on campus. Yeah, it was a good intense training, did a lot. We have another week coming up in July. That's gonna be some more, doing some of the stuff that we've done, but also add additional training as far as de-escalation, student behavioral, stuff like that. We're gonna assign some task forces to that as well, to try to be prepared. So we got still a lot written into the.
It's a big role to take, but I
Yes.
appreciate these people that are willing to do that for our schools and our kids.
And as y'all see on the stipend schedule, there is a stipend for that. So once y'all approve the list, then those stipends, are affixed to those personnel that are on that list.
Board, any more questions, comments? Entertain a motion for item number 8.
I move we approve the Guardian Plan for the 24-25 school year.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
The motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. 5-0. Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, the next item we have is award recommendation of contract for charter bus services for fine arts and athletic departments. As you can see, that's been pared down quite a bit. And appreciate Becca for her hard work in that, but I also appreciate the folks in fine arts and athletics for making some decisions, understanding the circumstance that the state has all public schools in, to take a look at decreasing the use of charter buses and use activity buses and in some cases yellow buses, except for long trips such as Wichita Falls and I believe Abilene Cooper. But everything else, we're using activity buses for our football team, and then we'll use charter buses only for those long trips. Band will do home games, and I believe the one travel game that they'll do that will require charters will be the Abilene Cooper game. Or Lubbock, it'll be Lubbock Cooper. So everything else, the band director he understood the circumstance, and he would rather reserve his use of charter buses for if they make area or if they make state, in solo and ensemble or in marching. So he would prefer to reserve it for that. I miss anything, Becca? You say no and then you come up, so yes.
I just wanted to mention that I was not able to secure buses for area. I did get one vendor to reply that they would do it, but they had a 30-day cancellation policy. And I said, well, we qualify at contest to go to area. So you only know 7 days in advance. Well, we can't do that. So we're going to try again right after UIL marching contest. And then I think a few things will open up as other schools drop off that don't qualify. But I just couldn't get it. And of course, we do have to qualify. I did secure it for state, but we have to qualify in order to go. And he actually also, Mr. Kelly, elected, as Dr. Sanchez said, is to use yellow dogs and charter buses even for the spring contest. But the only thing is we just don't have enough buses due to home to school routes. So junior high was still going to charter, but that's the only one I wasn't able to get was area, but I'm going to keep trying. I think I'll hit up that company again that week, and then I think we'll be able to do it. So this price could go up. No one really wanted to bid on state solo and ensemble in March. You know, when choir goes and band goes, they're like, can you just wait till spring? Don't ask us this far in advance. So anyway, that's the only ones I'm missing.
But as you can see, I mean, this is a tremendous decrease. I mean, we're usually $700,000-800,000 for this item. And this item is, yeah, 107. So I mean, 174,400. So, I mean, we do appreciate everybody pitching in to try to make the 2% pay increase work and to make the holding insurance harmless work. I mean, it has to come from somewhere. It doesn't come from the air. Plus, we've eliminated in central office almost, I think, 14 positions in district-wide, about 30, yeah, about 36. So we've eliminated positions, we've eliminated people in this building and all of this to be able to do the raise, to be able to operate school going into next year so that we're not looking at a horrible deficit situation like other districts are facing. But it requires tough decisions and the people who are left picking up more in those areas. So with that, I'll recommend for your consideration and approval the contract for charter bus services for fine arts and athletic departments for the 24-25 school year. Item over 50,000.
Board, any questions, comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for item number 9 at this time.
I make a motion to approve the contract for charter bus services for fine arts and athletic department for 2024-2025 school year.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Can we put in the motion, it's over 50,000? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Passes.
All right. See, the next item we have is the consensus agenda, which is budget amendment number 5 for 23-24. So with that, I'll make that recommendation for y'all's consideration and approval for the consensus agenda.
Board questions, comments? Entertain motion to for the consensus agenda.
Make a motion, we accept the consensus agenda.
Do I hear a second?
I'll
Got a
second.
motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
There's only one executive session item on a personnel matter. And at this point, all staff, aside from Ms. Merrick, are dismissed.
Thank you and enjoy your time off.